Testing, testing, testing. One, two, three. Testing.
You ready? Welcome everyone to tonight's council meeting. I'm the Mayor, Councillor Ranka Rasik. I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. I would like to welcome the members of the public who have joined us in the chamber tonight. Members of the public attending council and committee meetings are expected to behave respectfully at all times and not permitted to engage with councillors or council officers during the course of the meeting. This includes directing loud and inappropriate comments towards councillors and officers or making noise that impact council's ability to conduct its meeting. All persons present tonight have right to be safe and treated with respect. Council will not tolerate any behaviour that threatens the safety of anyone present in the chamber or which disrupts the ability of council to conduct its business on behalf of the community. You will be asked to leave the meeting if your behaviour is inappropriate, disruptive or rude. Due to ongoing disruption experienced at council meetings, all members of the gallery are required to pre-register their attendance at council meeting to support continuous effort to maintain a safe and secure environment for all participants, whilst allows council to conduct an ordinary meeting. In the unlikely event of an emergency, please follow the direction of council officers and the emergency procedures on the wall near the door. I would like to note I have given approval for Channel 31 to live stream this meeting. A recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Please stand for acknowledgement of country. On behalf of Brimbank City Council, I respectfully acknowledge and recognise the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people as traditional custodians of this land and pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I ask councillors to remain standing for the council commitment. Others may be seated. As the council, we will act in the best interest of the Brimbank community and consider the immediate and long-term impact of our decisions. We'll make these decisions fairly and without bias. We will uphold all of our obligations under the laws of Victoria and council's local laws, and we will act in accordance with our code of conduct. Councillors, please be seated. Going to go to item 3, apologies. Councillor Nguyen and Councillor Riley have submitted apology for tonight's meeting. Councillor Takos has requested a leave of absence from 28th of May 2024 to 30th of June 2024. May I have a mover? Councillor Papalia.
I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Deng.
I second that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. I'm going to go to item 4, the disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any disclosures or declarations of conflict of interest for tonight? No? Thank you. I'm going to go to item 5, designation of items as confidential. May I have a mover of a motion to designate items as confidential? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David.
Second, Mama. Thank you.
Put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. I'm going to go to item 6, confirmation of minutes of previous meeting. May I have a mover of a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous council meeting? Councillor Papalia.
Sure, I move the motion to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos. I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Item 7, condolences. There are no items for condolence this evening. Item 8, congratulations. There are no items for congratulations this evening. We're going to go to item 9, public question time. Mr. Beliver, I understand we have received questions from members of the public.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please note that only
the questions will be asked, and the preambles for some of the questions will only be published in the minutes of the meeting in order to save time. The first group of questions are in relation to Fix the Cola campaign. We have received 7 questions, 6 of which all ask how much money has Brimbank City Council spent on the Fix the Cola campaign. And these questions were from Melinda Meyer, Mark Yekic, Leslie Twiddle, Joanna Messer, Wilma Burbot, and Diane Capelli. Mark Yekic has also asked, why are ratepayers funding a Labor campaign to fix the cola when Labor is in power? These questions will be answered as one.
Thank you. Since being launched over 3 years ago in April 2021, $31,812.12 has been spent on the Fix the Collar campaign. This investment has resulted in the commencement of works to remove the level crossing at Calder Park Drive, with the project expected to be completed next year. The completion of business case for a new diamond interchange at Calder Park Drive, a $50 million commitment by the Victorian Government for freeway upgrades. And the second part of question or answer is the 2019 commitment of $50 million to fund upgrades to the Calder Freeway between the Western Ring Road M80 and Gap Road in Sunbury was announced by the then federal Liberal government. Whilst this was matched by the state Labor government at the 2021-22 Victorian state budget, the federal Labor government has since withdrawn the $50 million. Commonwealth commitment and the state government have announced that its $50 million commitment is being discontinued. Brimbank campaign to fix the Calder is priority in Council's advocacy plan 2023-2025 and is necessary given heavy congestions on the Calder and its dangerous state.
Our next question is from Albert Kuhlman. A check of my smart garden shows just one event is being run by Brimbank out of a long list of other councils. Secondly, greening the West is aimed at councils and public landowners and doesn't tackle private gardens at all. Finally, there is little evidence of any requirements for trees in yards in suburbs like Deer Park. Most yards have no greenery, let alone trees at all. So, what is the council actually doing to tackle this serious issue?
Council understands the need of increased urban greenery and is working towards this in several ways. My Smart Garden is an award-winning multi-council program aimed to promote sustainable gardening. Well, we only have one upcoming event in the municipality listed on the website currently. We have hosted 2 events previously in 2024 and have several more planned later in this year. Events in other municipalities are also open to Brimbank. Council does require trees in new developments, and this form part of the planning permit application and assessment process. Council does not have the power to compel residents in all the developments to plant trees and shrubs.
Diane Capelli has asked, what is the council's future plans for the Brimbank Bicycle Education Centre in Green Gully after it closes next month?
Brimbank Bicycle Education Centre signed a 5-year lease in April 2019, which gave them sole use of the facility and required council to maintain the facility as per the maintenance schedule with the agreement. The lease ended in March 2024, and officers have been in regular contact with an agreement to extend until June 30th. Last week, the BBEC required some time to see if they can attract additional committee members to be able to continue at the site, which will be provided. If they are unable to continue, Council will put out on expression of interest as per Council's allocation policy to determine if there are other community groups wanting to run the facility.
Our next question is from Claire Nondegur, who asks, I noticed from Census 2021 that the Brimbank LGA incidence of diabetes, 6.4%, is considerably above the state and national averages, 4.7 in both cases. Is there anything that Council can do directly to address this? Is anyone at Council tasked with addressing this specific issue?
Council works in partnership with community health organisations and the Western Public Health Unit to address chronic health conditions like diabetes. In addition, Brimbank provide a range of fitness and well-being programs to support increased levels of activity living and healthy eating. In recognition that regular physical activity and healthy nutrition are important lifestyle factors that can prevent diabetes.
Jamie Ramsey has asked a question in relation to the Community Policing Forum. Can this council justify to the community why there was no representation from this council given the high importance of this forum that was shown by community and police participation?
This was a Victoria Police event. Council was represented at this event by senior officers and councillors. Any matter raised at the forum, which the involvement of council will be raised with us directly. Council has a strong working relationship with Victoria Police and remains committed to community safety. Together with Victoria Police, we coordinate the Brimbank Safety and Wellbeing Partnership, which brings together key local stakeholders to build and maintain a safe and inclusive community in Brimbank.
The next question was from Graham Bloor, which was almost identical to the previous question, which has been answered. So we'll move on to Jamie Ramsey's next other question, which was, we have seen the state ALP government shelve the airport rail link project for at least the next 4 years. What impact will this have on the Sunshine Super Hub and investment into the community?
Council has been advised that the state government remains committed to the delivery of the Sunshine Station Master Plan, including the Sunshine Super Hub. Brimbank's Transforming Brimbank Vision 2050 and Economic Development Strategy 2022-2027 aim to set a positive investment claimed for private and public sector investment into the municipality for the benefit of the entire community. Council remains positive of a positive impact.
Shannon Milak has asked, there have been rumours that the roadworks that were scheduled to occur to install traffic lights at the two intersections at Sunshine Avenue and Keel Mountain Road, Old Calder Highway in Taylor's Lakes has been deferred indefinitely. Attempts to contact the local state government MP regarding this project have failed. Given Council's involvement in the project through land sales and acquisition, can Council advise the status of this project and when the community can expect to see the project completed?
Council officers have followed up with the Department of Transport and Planning, and they are unable to provide further update at this time. Interested community members may also wish to check the project website for any updates.
Shannon has also asked, Brimbank Council recently relaunched the Fix the Calder campaign. Whilst I believe this is to be a worthy campaign, why are community members unable to join the working group? Can Council please advise how the community can join the action group and become active members of the campaign?
The Calder Action Group is a community group that operates independently of Council. Council will contact the group on behalf of interested community members to help with making introduction.
Lorraine Milak asked, why was last month's meeting not adjourned and deferred until the technical issues had been resolved, and why was no audio recording of the meeting taken, even using a mobile phone, so that the meeting could be transcribed? As the vast majority of Brimbank residents now have no way to know what was discussed or how councillors voted in that meeting, how will council address this lack of transparency?
The council meeting was adjourned for a short time in order to attempt to rectify the streaming issue. However, as our live streaming technicians were not able to provide a time frame in which the issue would be rectified, council resumed the meeting. As per the Local Government Act 2020, the minutes of the council meeting are the official record of proceedings and are published on council's website.
Lorraine has also asked, there have been reports that the senior social group is being discontinued. If true, why is council discontinuing this group, and what will be provided to vulnerable citizens in its place?
The Commonwealth is making changes to aged care to deliver high quality care for older people when and where they need it. There are no changes at present to Brimbank City Council social support groups, which continue to be available to eligible residents.
Graham Wall has asked a question. However, this question is contrary to Rule 55, 11.3 and 4 of the governance rules. However, a response will be provided outside public question time. We'll now move to a question from Lerma Bloor. Now that it's been confirmed that the airport rail link is at least 9 years away, will Brimbank Council now escalate their support for our community by advocating strongly for an affordable semi-express bus service from Sunshine Rail Station via Khan Lake, Yalba and Keilor to the largest employer in the northwest region of Melbourne, the Melbourne Airport Business Precinct? And if not, why is this not a top priority of council?
Melbourne Airport Rail was anticipated to be completed by 2029, subject to relevant planning, environment, and other government approvals. The state government has indicated through the May 2024 budget that the project has been delayed by 4 years. The provision of a bus service between Sunshine and Melbourne Airport was identified in Brimbank's submission to the Melbourne Airport 2022 Master Plan. Council's Sunshine Priority Precinct Vision 2050 also envisaged that the Sunshine CBD would be connected to Melbourne Airport by airport rail and also serviced by buses. Council continues to advocate to the state government about Brimbank's transport needs in line with the Brimbank Strategic Advocacy Priority 2023-2025 and with Lead West on the Better Buses campaign.
Lerma has also asked, why is it that questions from the public are not shown on the screen at council meetings so that everyone can view these questions and ensure that their questions are read out in full?
Full public question and answers are provided in the minutes of the council meeting, which are the official record of proceedings and are published on council's website.
Jenna Zabo has asked, the past 3 years, a property in Craigley Street Avenue, St Albans, has had 2 fires, multiple deaths, and a dilapidated property overrun by drug users and drug dealers. It is littered with syringes, feces, urine. It also contains unstable asbestos fibers that we are breathing daily. Consequently, I have been recently diagnosed with asbestos in my lungs. Why is the health and safety duty of care overlooked to the neighbouring ratepayers?
Council is committed to the health, safety and well-being of the residents of Brimbank. Council's power to deal with rundown properties such as this are governed by legislative requirements which at times make it difficult to expedite an outcome.
Jenna asked a second question in relation to the same property in Craigley Ave, St Albans. This property does not comply with council regulations as there are no fencing erected. When will council demolish the dilapidated building?
An emergency order was issued to the landowner of the demolished dwelling in accordance with the Building Act 1993. The owner has not complied with the emergency order, so legal proceedings are now underway seeking an injunction required, the dwelling to be demolished and the entirely of the building to be removed from the property, with the court hearing scheduled for the end of this month.
Emma Mendelson has asked, I would like council to explain why several councils have not declared their political party memberships and allegiances as part of the Brimbank Party membership register.
It is noted this is a new process. An update is to requested of councillors quarterly, and all councillors will be encouraged to provide an update when requested.
Emma has asked one more question, but in relation to operational matter, and she has been responded to outside of question time. There are no further questions.
Thank you. We're going to go to item 10, petitions. There are 2 petitions to be received this evening. 10.1, removal and reconfiguration of parking spaces. Petition received with 205 petitioners objecting to the removal and regulation of any parking spaces directly in front of shops along Glengala Village, Glengala Road, May I have a mover of this motion? Councillor David.
I move the petition to be received and not dismissed, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr.
I second as per the business papers.
Put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 10.2, reinstate the JR Persons Recreation Reserve upgrades. This petition was received with 380 signatures, urging Brimbank Council to reinstate the JR Persons Recreation Reserve upgrades. Do I have a mover? Yes, Councillor Tarkus. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David.
Second, Madam Mayor. Yeah.
I'll put this petition to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. I'm going to go to item 11, minutes, reports of delegated committees. There are no minutes or reports of delegated committees for tonight. I'm going to go to item 12, officers' reports. There are 16 officer reports for consideration by council tonight. If you have a alternate or amended motion this evening, you must draft this motion and provide the governance team via email so that they may be shared on screen and form part of the meeting. Otherwise, we may have to defer the matter until the motion has been written, allowing the meeting to proceed uninterrupted. So we're going to go to 12.1, Planning Activity Update and Delegated Decisions and Planning Scheme Amendment Update, April 24. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of the report is to provide Council information on the status of planning permit applications and trends in planning approvals in Brimbank and decisions made under delegated authority during April 2024 regarding planning permit applications and other matters, and also the status of current planning scheme amendments as at the 30th of April. Officers recommend that Council notes the planning activity update and delegated decisions report and decisions made as detailed at attachment 1, and notes the planning scheme amendment summary at attachment 3. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for Director on this report? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the recommendation in the notice paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg.
I'll second that report. Thank you.
Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillors, would anyone like to speak to this report tonight? If not, I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.2, Planning Application P516/2023 452 to 256 Selwyn Street, Albion. Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider the planning application for the construction of 10 double-storey dwellings and a reduction to the standard car parking requirements at 52 to 56 Selwyn Street in Albion against the provisions of the Brimbank planning scheme. Officers recommend that Council issues a notice of decision to grant the planning permit for the construction of the dwellings and the reduction of the car parking, subject to a range of conditions that are outlined at attachment 7 to the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for the Director? Question of clarification or? No? Yes, Councillor Tarkus.
Oh, not a question. I just wanted to move an alternate motion.
Yep.
Is it okay if we can bring it up on the screen?
Tony? Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to add that if the proposed alternate motion doesn't proceed, I'd like to foreshadow that we revert to the original motion. Thank you.
Thank you. So you would like to foreshadow to officers' report? It doesn't. Thank you. Just to clarify. Councillor Takis, are you ready?
Yes.
Yep.
As per shared screen, I just giving people the chance to read through it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I move that.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kerr?
I second it as per the business papers.
As per shared screen, yeah?
Yes.
Yep, no problem. Councillor Takis, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say that I attended the planning forum like many other councillors and listened to both the developer and also the residents objecting to the planning application. I am definitely not against development. I think that if anything, we need more housing stock, but we also need to seek balance in the way that that housing stock is developed in our in Brimbank. So basically, this application is seeking the construction of 10 double-storey dwellings and a reduction in the standard car parking requirement. Two previous applications were submitted to Council in 2018 and 2020, both proposing 9 double-storey dwellings. Both applications were refused under delegation of Council, and the refusals were upheld by VCAT. So my question is, why are we now recommending a plan that is to be more than, there needs to be more than just a strategic justification for increasing the density? On page 99.3 says that Council said the proposal of the 9 dwellings is an uncomfortable fit for the site. It says that the proposal is of an intensity and layout which is too tightly packed and an overdevelopment, unquote. If we are now adding to the intensity and increasing it to 10 two-storey properties, then it won't that exacerbate the overdevelopment by squeezing in even more bulk in what is quite a busy surrounding interface. Selwyn Park, as you know, has got sports facilities, Cororoy Creek Trail, which is already attracting many cars on the weekends, and you know those car parkings that are on street fill up very quickly on Selwyn Street and the side streets. The impact of an overdevelopment is it adds even more cars in an area that's already experiencing illegal car parking and will only add to the congestion. I'm not sure that the car park report has factored in weekend and evening car parking, but it definitely should. There are also neighbourhood character discrepancies with the setbacks not aligning with the neighbourhood character, overlooking concerns, waste removal management of the 10 double-storey dwellings. So the added pressure it will have on the stormwater, you know, will impact to the drainage and infrastructure that, as we know, sometimes struggles with what we already have. The removal of an established brush box tree and the impact on the surrounding fauna and rich ecosystem, depending on such trees, the cultural sensitivity of the area due to proximity to Cororoy Creek, there is a request by a local resident that a new CHMP be also undertaken given the sensitivities. For the above reasons, and that's within the amended motion that I present to you today, councillors, I seek council reconsider this application and review the concerns put forward by the residents at the forum and consider a plan that reflects neighbourhood character, still offers a diversity in housing, but above all respects environmental values and is a sustainable and not overdevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to or against?
Just
Yes,
got a question
Papalia?
for the director, Kelvin, please. If you could just talk to us about this development in terms of it being having more room with 10 townhouses in comparison to the previous design of 9 that I believe Virginia quoted was squished or something like that from the VCAT report. And sorry if you could also just comment on the rubbish situation. Thanks.
Thank you, councillors. Through you, Madam Mayor, the matter that was referred to from the VCAT findings from the previous hearing is taken in isolation, whereas the planning assessment must take into account all of the matters and arrive at a balanced decision. The Victorian planning system does not have a density measure within it, rather, which means, you know, the number of dwellings per hectare, for argument's sake. So it's not a simple equation of the number of dwellings per site, but rather the complex interactions of all of the design and the design elements and how they actually arrive at a complete design. Hence why at attachment 6 to the report, councillors will see quite an extensive assessment against all of the different criteria within the Brimbank planning scheme that must be considered as part of your deliberations of this design in its totality as a balanced outcome for the local community in response to this specific site. The other question was in relation to the waste, and I'm sorry, could I just get clarification of what about the waste through you, Madam Mayor?
I didn't recall reading anything about the adequate waste management plan. If you know any detail about what that looks like.
Let me just. Madam Mayor, I think I should probably take that question on notice and provide councillors with further information tomorrow.
No problem, thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this motion or against it? Councillor Borg, are you speaking for or against?
I'll speak against. I also attend the planning forum and I did listen to the people's objections. I want to acknowledge their concerns. However, having read the report thoroughly, I'm quite satisfied that council has met all the requirements and has addressed these concerns in the report. And for that reason, I will not support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor David?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm speaking against also. This particular infrastructure, Madam Mayor, came before us back in February 2019. We, as Councillor Tago said, we all supported the community. But it went to VCAT, and of course VCAT upheld our decision. Now, we did quite a number of changes, I believe, as the report tells us. And indeed, last week, we had the planning forum here, where the developer, and indeed his planner as well, did say that they're willing to work with our officers to any changes, other changes that we request that they can be on board. So if we say no again today, they'll be going to VCAT, and VCAT will pass it. That's the situation. It'll be costing council money, legal representation. It cost us then, it'll be costing us again. So I think it's a must for us to, I'm supporting the officer's report, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, anyone else would like to speak for or against? If not, I'll actually, Councillor Takos, you have right of reply if you would like.
I take on board what the other councillors have also said. However, that you've got to remember that VCAT did also uphold our recommendations not to go ahead with the 9 double stories. So, I also take on board the directors that it's a comprehensive plan that we're looking at. However, the decisions we make and the footprints we leave also leave impact on the environment and also the community that exists there. They're not opposing development at all, and that was a clear message that they were making throughout their, you know, their submissions. They're willing also to work with the developer and want to be heard. However, all I'm saying is that if we are saying that those two former applications are overdevelopments, then squeezing more into that area is certainly another overdevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, in response to the question that I took on notice earlier, I point councillors to page 174 of the agenda pack under criteria B34 site services, which also relates to waste management. The assessing officer has determined that it complies, given that the length of frontage both at Selwyn Street and Delmont Street, that there is adequate frontage there for waste collection. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I will put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It lapses. All against? Sorry, it's lost. My bad. Thank you. So now we're going to move to foreshadowing motion. Councillor Papalia.
Yes, I move the motion when it comes up on screen, the officer recommendation.
I second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor David is seconding. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to officer's report?
Thank you.
The original motion.
Yes, just to say we are in a housing crisis. I understand we do have a lack of affordable housing in the area. I understand the concerns. I have read through the report in detail and I do believe it does meet the recommendations of VCAT. I also have seen that some of the townhouses were reduced in size and that the landscaping is sufficient. So I'm supportive of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to officers?
I said what I said earlier. I think that's my belief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this report? For or against? If not, I will put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Against? Thank you. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.3, Quarter 3 Budget Report. Mr. Stormer, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report before you is the third quarter budget report for this financial year. So that's as of 31st of March. The actual surplus to date is favorable to the budget by about 10%. But as we've discussed in previous reports, the timing of the financial assistance grant that we were supposed to receive this year, but that we received in the previous year, means that we are still looking at a deficit for the forecast for the end of the year. It does not have a cash impact because we received that cash, and in fact our cash balance is looking favorable to budget. If we do receive that grant, as we oftentimes do in June, then we will be in a surplus position. In fact, it will be favorable to the budget, but we haven't yet been informed of the timing of that. We also, in the budget, you'll see that we did absorb through different savings measures a $7 million increase in depreciation, which was the result of asset valuations, because of course the increase in cost for assets means that we revalue them at a higher cost, and that impacts depreciation. And then finally, just noting that capital works currently sit at 27 million, with a forecast to be at 59 million by the end of the financial year as projects come to completion. Thank you. The report provides a lot more detail for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for Mr. Stormer? Do I have a mover? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Papalia.
Second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Mr. Stomer has covered it quite well.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Any other councillor, would anyone like to speak to this report? If not, I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.4, Governance Report, May 2024, with Ms Hill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In this month's governance report, councillors are asked to consider a summary of recent governance activity, councillor declarations of representations by members of Parliament, councillor attendance at the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly 2024, an update on the Regional Assessment Service, and proposed changes brought about by the Local Government Amendment Governance and Integrity Bill 2024, and the response in relation to Notice of Motion 223 relating to the 26th of January. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, does anyone have any questions for the Director, for Ms Hill? Do I have a mover of this report? We will have to put the names of councillors attending. 1 second. Sorry. So do I have a mover of this report? Councillor Borg?
I'll move this report as per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, you will have to put the names in section B, attendance of councillors, which councillors are attending Australian Local Government Association, National Gallery Assembly in July. It is 2nd to 4th of July. I've got a names here. It's Sam David, Tweedang and Rankarasik. So you're moving that, yep.
I'll move the report as shown on the screen, including the attendance of councillors Tweedang, Sam David and Rankarasik at the Australian Local Government Association's National General Assembly 2024 to be held in Canberra from the 2nd to the 4th of July 2024, and that a report will be provided to Council following the NGA 2024.
Perfect, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Takos. Thank you. Would you like to speak to that report, Councillor?
Just
Borg?
briefly, Madam Mayor, this governance report is a standard report with the inclusion of two items. One regards the 26th of January and Council's continuous discussions with First Nations people who consider this day as a day of mourning, and we will be continuing these conversations as we go along. The other item is an update regarding the regional assessment service within the context of my aged care reforms. I can't give too many details on this report because this is, the attachment is confidential.
Thank you.
I commend this report to Council.
Thank you. Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this report? Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this report? If not, I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Against? We're going to go to 12.5, Council Plan, Annual Action Plan, Year 3, Quarter 3, Progress Report, January to March 2024. Ms Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council adopted Together We Are Brimbank Council Plan 21 to 2025 at the October 2021 meeting. Each year, after consulting with the community, Council creates an annual action plan to implement the strategic directions and objectives outlined in the Council Plan. Implementation of these actions is monitored and evaluated through quarterly reporting of actions, with achievements published at the end of the financial year in the Brimbank Council Annual Report. This year, 23-24, the Council Action Plan contains 109 actions. This report shows the progress made in Q3 from the 1st of January to the 31st of March 2024. The recommendation is that Council notes the status of actions as presented in the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions on this report for Ms Hill? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor Papalia.
I move the report as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg.
I'll second this report as per business papers.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly to mention that out of the 129 actions, 4 actions have been completed. And with regards to the other actions, they are still in progress. And may I remind the community that the actions are relating to 4 categories: people and community, places and spaces, opportunity and prosperity, and leadership and governance. I'm happy with the way these actions are progressing, and I commend this report to Council.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia. Oh, I asked you already. Any other councillors? Would anyone else like to speak to this report? I'll put report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. 12.6 Draft Community Engagement Policy. Ms Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under the Local Government Act 2020, all councils must have a community engagement policy that has been developed in consultation with the community and gives effect to the community engagement principles as listed in the Act. Brimbank's community engagement policy was adopted in 2021 and due for review. Council undertook a deliberative engagement process in 2023 to inform the full review of the community engagement policy. Council endorsed the draft policy to go to broad community consultation in December 2023. The recommendation is for Council to adopt the final draft community engagement policy and write to respondents thanking them for their time and to close the loop. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for Ms Hill on this report? Do I have a mover? Councillor Kerr.
I move the report as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg.
I'll second the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, Madam Mayor. As a community first council, council community engagement is highly significant. Indeed, councils first adopted this policy back in 2021 before it became legal in 2023. And it was due for revision in 2023. Important to mention that the Brimbank Community Voice was established in 2023 and included in deliberative engagements in the development of the first draft community engagement policy, which was endorsed by Council in December and made available for community consultation earlier this year. Pleased to say that there was strong support of the statement of policy pillars and principles. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to this report? I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. I'm going to go to 12.7. Communicating with cultural and linguistically diverse community. Ms Hill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is presented in response to Notice of Motion 28-23, outlining the ways in which Council communicates with culturally and linguistically diverse communities. Officers are recommending that Council receives this report in response to the Notice of Motion from the Council meeting on the 17th of October 2023, notes the various ways Council officers currently communicate with culturally and linguistically diverse communities across Brimbank, and notes the officers will continue to work closely with culturally and linguistically diverse communities to improve and tailor our communications to these communities. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for Ms Hill on this report? Do I have a mover? Councillor Tarkos.
I move this report as per business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Papalia.
I second the report.
Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this report?
I can't, in regards to this particular, the original nom was through Councillor O'Reilly, but I'm sure he would be really happy and impressed with the detail in the response. The only thing that I could, looking through the different interfaces, is also to communicate to community leaders and faith group leaders, because they are very quite essential to communicating messages out to our very diverse community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to this report? If not, I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.8, final draft arts and culture strategy. Ms. Dumble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents the final draft Arts and Culture Strategy 2024 to 2028 for Council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Are there any questions for Ms. Dumble? Do I have a move of this report then? Councillor Takos.
I move that the report as per shared screen. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor David.
Second, thank you.
Councillor Takos, would you like to speak to this report?
Yeah, I definitely support the endorsement of this final report celebrating our diverse art and culture. I also think the community feedback is vital in shaping what they want out of arts. Projection festivals at the silos. This was once held at the silos, and it was an absolutely exceptional event. More projection festivals rather than the standard festivals is something unique that we get a lot of people asking us about. More bands for activation in our precincts, and opportunities more so for local artists to be involved. Also more online inclusive art opportunities. There's also been a great success of the Makers Space. Maybe that can be brought to all libraries where people can create their own branding and art. Filling all underutilised spaces for local artists to have space so they can develop their art is a fantastic one. And Aboriginal Cultural Museum was also flagged by a community member, and more local youth theatre groups is also another feedback from the community. So I fully endorse this strategy.
Thank you. Councillor David, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other councillor? Would anyone like to? Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly to say that the strategy pillars and objectives are quite impressive. And with the inclusion, as Councillor Taco said, of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders, this strategy is highly inclusive and getting stronger. Indeed, I would also like to mention that such inclusivity also includes people with disability as artists, participants, and audiences. The current Brimbank City Council Arts and Culture Services are a testimony of how much this sector is highly valued by this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor before I put it to vote? Okay, we put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.9, Brimbank Arts Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. Ms. Dumble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This report asks Council to adopt the revised Brimbank Arts Advisory Committee Terms of Reference and approve the recruitment of new members through an expression of interest process.
Councillors, are there any questions for the Director, for Ms. Dumble? Do I have a mover? Councillor Dang?
I move the motion as per share screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Borg?
I'll second the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Deng, would you like to speak to this report?
Yes, I would like to congratulate the team for their diligent work in the Brimbank Art Advisory Committee. And I've been onto the committee for a while, so I would like to call the community to put their expression of interest to join in the Brimbank Art Advisory Committee members. Yeah. And
Thank
then
you.
I commend the report to council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to it?
The terms of reference are pretty straightforward. I highly welcome them though, because in the past there were times when we couldn't hold a meeting because we didn't have a quorum. So with these new terms of reference, those barriers sort of are removed. And as Councillor Deng mentioned, I would like to encourage members of the community to join in this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak to it? I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.10. Discounts for Brimbank residents at Brimbank Leisure Centre. Ms Dumble.
Thank you, Mayor. This report presents to Council advice on fee discounts for Brimbank residents to attend Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre and the Sunshine Leisure Centre following a notice of motion from the Council meeting in February 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for Ms Dumble on this report? Councillor Kerr.
My first question is, I asked for some figures earlier this morning and you provided me some projections with the operating income forecast. I just wanted to ask, was that forecast based on the projection of actual membership now, or what the membership was projected when this forecast was made?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Kerr. So the data was provided on from the original business case that was presented to Council when Council approved the projects. So it wasn't based on the current memberships, which
So the figures that you're providing me here, where we're in negative for the first 2 years, are not actual figures. Is that correct?
Yes, so the business case projected what the income and expenditure would be in the first, 8 years of the facility opening, and there was to be a deficit projected, and that was based on conservative membership take-up, which has been exceeded since the facility has opened.
Excellent. That takes me to my next question, if I may ask another question. I did ask this morning if you could provide me what the forecasted projected membership was. So what was the projected membership in year 1, 2 and 3?
Yes. So sorry, we weren't able to get that information in time from the report. My understanding is the first 2 years were based on a membership of about 3,000 members, and then that increasing to about 5,000 members after 5 years.
Okay, and can I just confirm that we all agree that the current membership is sitting at 11,000? Sorry, I just can't find it in my notes at the moment.
It's about 11,500 over both the facilities, over Sunshine Leisure Centre and over the Brimbank Aquatic Centre.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also have a question. The number of councillors who are here were here at the time the original modelling was done for this facility, and I do recall the prediction of 3,000 membership. It is very gratifying, of course, and a little unexpected that it's jumped to the 11,000, which has provided council with a significant surplus. Now, the question is there any plans for that surplus?
Thank you, Mayor. When we talk about a surplus, that doesn't account for a number of the expenditure items that actually go against that particular or both those facilities. So there are a number of items such as the $50 million loan that is against that was borrowed for constructing the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre, which is still being paid off, including the principal and the interest. So that's one significant cost that I guess any additional surplus would go against. The popularity of that centre, which is certainly above what we originally projected, also means that there's been additional expenses with staffing, but also a larger impact actually on the maintenance of the site, particularly at Bork, where where there's been the most membership. We also have the Sunshine Leisure Centre, which is an ageing facility, which actually has high upgrade needs, particularly around the outdoor pool, which now needs to be totally replaced. So whilst we might be getting a lot more income than we always anticipated, there's also considerable cost to council for running both of those facilities. In fact, the gas bill to operate the heating of the water at Sunshine Leisure Centre will be, by the end of this financial year, in the order of $750,000 for the year just for the gas bill for Sunshine. Very fortunate at the Aquatic Centre because it's an all-electric facility. But we have to remember we have both of these facilities. So whilst Bork may be showing a much stronger financial situation, for the financial sustainability of both leisure centres, we also have to consider where there's costs. The other costs that aren't factored in because they're covered by other areas of council are things such as the outdoor maintenance, such as the parks and gardens, the cleaning crews. There's also waste collection that goes from both sites as well. So there's a number of on costs that aren't always factored into that particular budget item. Thank you.
Councillors, are there any more questions of clarification for Ms Dumble before we proceed? Councillor Kerr?
Madam Mayor, I'd wish to raise an alternate motion.
Can we just first do the question, if anyone has got any question to clarify it, if they're not sure about report or anything, to direct, and then we'll go to...
Couldn't we just do that?
No? Then I put motion to vote. Sorry. Move up. So, yeah.
I'd like to raise an alternate motion.
Yep.
To the report. May I?
Yeah, and I also just want to foreshadow, like I did in the last instance, that if that
Officers'
motion
reports.
does not proceed, that we move to officer recommendation. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Kerr, what is your motion?
As per the shared screen, I'll just give everyone a moment to familiarise themselves with it.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tarkos?
I'm happy to second it as per shared screen. Thank you.
Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. The alternate motion, Madam Mayor, I'd like to propose as an alternate motion to this officer's report is that Council provides residents of Brimbank a 5% discount on memberships, casual entry and swim school for a term of 2 years commencing 1st of July 24 to be reviewed on 1st of July 26. There is no doubt that the Brimbank Aquatic Centre has been an overwhelming success with 11,086 current members. Council only projected to have no more than 3,000 members at this stage. It is time we reward the community and ratepayers who funded this project with more than $60 million of ratepayers' monies used to build this complex. The report suggests that rate capping, a growing asset base, increasing operational costs, various competing priorities for funding and broader ongoing financial challenges facing council, that the current fees should remain. But why should residents be prejudiced by factors that they're not, privy to? My point is, we never projected to have this amount of members in the first place. So just because the centre is doing better than expected, why shouldn't we provide residents with a small discount considering they funded the lion's share of this facility? I plead with my fellow councillors to support this motion to assist struggling residents with the cost of living and the opportunity to continue using this great facility. Thank you.
Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, I'd like to say that as Councillor Lancashire said, I was there from the beginning of the construction. The whole purpose of this facility was for our own community. Our community faces a lot of health challenges in terms of the highest, diabetes in our municipality has also other very poor health outcomes. Whilst it has those poor health outcomes, it's compounded by a cost of living crisis at the moment where people are considering gym memberships as a luxury. When rentals go up or mortgages go up, these become, another added pressure, financial pressure for families. And so what happens is that whole prevention of health becomes something that people can no longer afford. I think that whilst I understand that there are budgetary pressures, we also have a community that this whole facility was designed to improve their health so we can decrease the reliance on hospitals and, other, services. Our community has shown an absolute favourable engagement in this take up of balk. In fact, I wish we had 3 balks across Brimbank because such is the positive health impacts to our community. But in a way, it also works against our community because they are, I've talked to many people that are struggling to pay their memberships, me included. It's very expensive when you have a family as well, that you're trying to get to do basic swimming lessons. So I think what Councillor Kerr is offering in this is just a time for the timing of the cost of living crisis to just lessen the burden
1 minute left.
on our community so they can keep going and keep improving their health, their mental, physical health, and also to reward them for believing in us as a council for developing this concept which looks after all facets of their health.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak for or against? Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I would like to speak in favour of this motion. As I mentioned earlier, a number of the councillors, of course, were here at the time we did the modelling, and we didn't expect it to be this successful. However, when we did the modelling, given that we were heading into, I think, COVID, the concern, I guess, like all of these things, is how far can we push the budget? We wanted a very good centre. We ended up getting an excellent centre that's been very successful. However, we had to draw the line in the sand at things like outdoor pools, which we certainly discussed and debated and considered. We set aside the land for it. So there are a number of things like extending the car park that is necessary because of the success of the centre, taking pressure off the centre. If the discussion or information being put forward about where the money was going towards, let's say, starting work on design for the outdoor pools or something like that, I'd probably have maybe a little bit of a different attitude to it. But this is an opportunity to give something back as a thank you to the community. And I think we do need to have a careful think about what other things we need to do in terms of particularly reinvesting back in this facility. So on that basis, I'd like to see more. However, I think this is a good start, and I commend Councillor Kerr's motion.
Thank you, Councillor Wood. Anyone else? Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am speaking against this NOM. In principle, I do agree with my fellow councillors. However, when I look at the this discount and the impact that it will have on our budget, which is highly tight, is highly concerning. And I am now looking at a view of the Brimbank community at large and not a subgroup of the population. I know that this subgroup that are making use of the facilities at BOC is a significant one. I won't take that away at all, but I am seriously concerned about the impact that it will have on the budget. And of course, the community will suffer because then the money will has to come from somewhere and something else has to give way to complement these subsidies. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Anyone else? Councillors? Councillor Dang?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's very nice and very generous of Councillor Kerr and also Councillor Tarkos. We do concern to the communities, but I agree with Councillor Board that are against on the alternative motion, because 5% discount on each membership is not much for the community, but it does affect a lot for the council. So if we think big, we think in the future. So I don't support Councillor Kerr alternative motion. Thank you.
Anyone else, councillors?
Yeah, I also would like to speak against the alternate motion. I don't think it does take into consideration the challenges that are faced by council. Lindley mentioned, Ms. Dumble mentioned some of those earlier, and the one for me is the growing asset base that will all need renewal, and we know the risks and where we sit there. Interest rates are high, with a $50 million loan, and the increased gas costs that we didn't account for originally when gas wasn't the price that it is today. We also know that we do have higher rates of diabetes, as mentioned earlier in public question time. And I personally would like to see more participation in physical activity and more campaigns done to engage those that are not participating already. And I think we all would like to see more walks in Brimbank, and I think we have to look at the bigger picture here, and that this money can take us away from achieving that, whether that be in the short term or the longer term. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else before I give Councillor Kerr right of reply? Councillor David?
Just to say, Madam Mayor, I heard the director before saying that just the gas heating of the pool, $750,000 plus. Now, this 5% really is going to be around the $500,000 or more out of that as well. I think 11,000 people or more, 5%.
Yep.
So, and I do agree with what they said about community, etc. But and we all surprised in reference to the build-up. We all thought about 3,500, but yes, everyone was wrong. However, it's still a new progress, and I think we should let it go for another couple of years and see how we go. This is my,
Thank you, Councillor David. If there's no more comments, or Councillor Kerr, would you like right of reply?
Yeah, just like some clarity, because Councillor Papalia mentioned the usage of gas, but I believe that BOC doesn't use any gas. Is that correct?
Thank you through the Mayor. The gas bill is against the Sunshine Leisure Centre, so that is gas. That's what the heating is.
So, but we're not incurring any gas fees from But my question is, are we incurring any gas fees from the Brimbank Aquatic Centre?
It's fully electric, but what I'm describing was the fact that the two leisure centres, it's a false economy if you only look at the Brimbank Aquatic Centre, because both leisure centres operate as the Brimbank Leisure Centres. So we have a brand new facility, but we also have an ageing facility at the Sunshine Leisure Centre where there is like an increasing cost for actually operating that.
So surplus would be used for both of them to be looked after?
That's right.
So can I just clarify, because Councillor David made the comment of 700,000, is that how much it actually costs for gas at Sunshine?
Yes, that's the bill for this financial year will be about 750,000 for the gas bill.
And would that have been different if bulk existed, yes or no?
No, that's
Okay.
yeah,
No,
because it's gas.
Yeah. So I guess my point is that the 11,000 odd members that we have at the Brimbank Aquatic Centre are irrelevant to Sunshine, because that would have actually been occurring anyway. So my reply is
Ms.
that...
Dumble, can you please clarify that? Because if we didn't have a Borg, I think Sunshine Leisure Centre would be used much more. And
yeah, that's pretty likely that it would be our only leisure centre, so it probably would have more usage. So we
Well, it wouldn't have been only, because you still would have had St Albans, right? Before it renamed. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk in facts and not estimates. So the facts are...
Sorry, Councillor Kerr, your right of reply has finished. Sorry for that.
Okay, thank you.
I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. All against?
Madam Mayor, may I ask for a division, please?
Yep. All in favour, please raise your hands. Councillor Kerr, Councillor Tarkos, Councillor Lancashire. All against? Councillor Dang, Councillor Papalia, Councillor David, Councillor Branton, Councillor Borg and Rustic. Thank you. This motion has lapsed. Lost, yeah. Lapsed. Sorry. So we're going to foreshadow Councillor Papalia's motion from before.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as per the shared screen, which is the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Dang.
I seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to that motion?
No, thank you. I think we covered it in the last discussion. Thank you.
Councillor Dang, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Any other councillors, would you like to speak to this motion? I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. Against? It's carried. Yes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Tarkos, do I have a seconder? Councillor Lancashire? I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. We're going to move to 12.11, Brimbank Annual Community Grants Program 2024-2025. Ms. Dumble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This report asks Council to consider the proposed Brimbank Annual Community Grants Program 24-25 categories. It is proposed the annual grant program will open for applications on the 29th of May and close on the 14th of July this year. Thank you.
Councillors, are there any questions for Ms. Dumble? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor Dang,
I move the report as per Shastrin, please.
thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Papalia.
Second the report.
Councillor Dang, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Papalia, would you
No,
like to
thank
speak to? No? Would any other councillor like to speak to this report? I put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.12, Final Community Service and Infrastructure Planning Policy. Ms. Dumble, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This report asks Council to consider adopting the final draft Community Services and Infrastructure Planning Policy following a period of community consultation. The purpose of this policy is to provide rationale and justification to how Council plans, provides and maintains community services infrastructure in ways that are both effective and equitable. Thank you.
Councillors, are there any questions for Ms. Dumble? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor Borg.
I'll move the report as per business papers.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Papalia.
I second the motion.
Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to this report?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, Council received 19 written submissions and there was strong community support. And also it's interesting to note that no changes have been made to the first draft. Some of the points that were raised were not relevant to this policy. However, they were noted and referred to the relevant other council departments. I would also like to point out that an easy version of this document will be provided as suggested in the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this report?
No, thank you.
Would any other councillor like to speak to this report? If not, I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. We're going to go to 12.13, Final Draft Sunshine Energy Park Vision Plan. Mr. Levers.
Thank you, Mayor. This report presents a draft Sunshine Energy Park Vision Plan following consultation with stakeholders in the broader community. The Sunshine Energy Park Vision Plan outlines the vision for this iconic site in the heart of Brimbank. It recognises the significance of Sunshine Energy Park to Sunshine and Brimbank more broadly. Realising the vision for Sunshine Energy Park is an important component of achieving the Sunshine Priority Precinct Vision 2050, a component of transforming Brimbank. The vision for the site is that Sunshine Energy Park will be a catalyst for Sunshine's renewal, embedding a high-performing urban parkland at its core that inspires community wellbeing, biodiversity and environmental innovation. The vision plan sets out a vision for the site which is expected to be delivered in stages over many years as a result of partnerships with others who share Council's vision for the site. Whilst a portion of the site has previously been used as a landfill site, this is being actively managed and the vision plan has been developed with regard to this. Expert assessment has been performed with a review of the draft vision plan to ensure that the plan and the proposed future uses of the site are appropriate and safe. Adopting the vision would provide certainty for council officers and stakeholders to plan for and deliver against the vision, which is expected to bring significant benefit to people of Sunshine and Brimbank through the realisation of the various precincts. If council adopts the plan, this would lead to further advocacy and engagement with potential partners, and any projects or development of land would be subject to further detailed investigation and planning to ensure all risks are appropriately considered and mitigated. Mayor and councillors, I commend this plan for your consideration.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for Mr. Levers' self-clarification or? Yep, Councillor Kerr.
I would like to clarify. I mean, I had a read through the report, and there are found to be some Indigenous artefacts found on that site. And my concerns are with what happened at Green Gully recently. I don't want to find ourselves 8 years into the planning process and spending $2 million worth of ratepayers' money. What kind of guarantees can you give that we're not going to be in this situation at Energy Park?
Through the Mayor, with this site and with any site, we do due diligence, which would include cultural heritage management if that's required, as well as any other sort of land use for sensitive uses. As to guarantees, I don't think anyone can guarantee anything in relation to the land, but the plan would be to undertake feasibility investigation for any future use. So that's outlined in the report, and that's how we would approach that.
Thank you. Councillors, any more Councillor Lancashire, do you have a question for Director?
No, I'm going to request an alternate motion.
Yes, that's fine. If there's no more questions for Director, we can go that way. Councillor Papalia, sorry, I think
Just to propose the same situation that I did in the last examples, that
foreshadow
if this alternate
It's
motion
lost.
lapses, that we move back to the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we could have the alternate motion up. The council defers item 12.13, final draft Sunshine Energy Park Vision Plan, to be considered at the July council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tarkus.
I second the alternate motion.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very complex report. We unfortunately did receive the final GHD engineering report on the day of the council report briefing. We had a planning committee meeting that night, which meant that it was a very tight briefing session. And I think given that this proposal in its entirety, as we've been advised in the past, is about $500 million, and there are a range of environmental, cultural heritage and business case issues to look at. We probably do really need to have a separate briefing session on this matter before we proceed, and an opportunity to go through these reports, to ask questions. So I would suggest that postponing the consideration of this to allow us to work through these items and a briefing would be probably a wise, prudent thing to do, given that we're coming to the end of our term. And so the legacy of what we leave to the next council is important. So in that regard, I would recommend the alternate recommendation to my fellow councillors.
Thank you. Councillor Tarkus, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yeah, I just want to echo the sentiments of Councillor Lancashire. The GHD report was only provided to us recently. I felt like we just glossed over it. We didn't get a chance to. That's why I did send those additional questions, because as a councillor, I like to go in knowing the full facts, and also if there's any questions I have, I'm not a qualified engineer. I want to make sure that the decisions I'm making in this chamber that may have long-term impacts on my community are thoroughly understood, especially a report like this. And as we have also seen that there have been other projects where we worked on for 7 years, and then the due diligence was done, and then we didn't proceed with them. I want to make sure that no stone is unturned with this plan, because it is a significant amount of work in terms of giving it out as packages to stakeholders. We want to make sure that we as councillors are across every part of it, especially the GHD report. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other councillor like to speak to this motion? If not, I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. All against? It's lost. So, Councillor Papalia, what we're foreshadowing?
I'm foreshadowing that we proceed as per the officer recommendation.
Do I have a seconder for that?
I'll second it, Madam Mayor.
Councillor David,
Thank you.
seconded. Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you, not at this stage.
Councillor David?
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, this issue's been before us for many years now. We spend a lot of money, huge money. The report is excellent before us. It has been well received by business people, other organizations as well. And I understand what Councillor Lancashire continues saying, and I support that. I support that in reference to a small forest and perhaps the solar panel farm. There's room there for it. The northern part of that land, the St. Albans roadside, is a clean land. We have to utilize that part of land and lease. So is room there for more improvements, and we have to be seen that we support it. We have to go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor David. Anyone else, councillors? Councillor Borg?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Although I have supported the previous motion in good faith regarding the GHD report, for me, I wanted to give a chance, an opportunity for other councillors who are not so sure. As for me personally, having been thoroughly following the development of this master plan, briefings, information sessions by guest speakers, robust discussion, GHD reports, I am supporting this master plan. We need to capitalize on this asset considering its strategic position in the municipality, being so close to public community. On the basis of this information, I am happy to support this final draft.
Thank you. Anyone else, councillors, before I put it to vote? Councillor Lancashire?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I certainly don't support this motion or proposal. We've had a situation at the last meeting where we certainly raised concerns about our budget situation and didn't defer, but actually scrapped a sporting facility that we'd spent $5 million on preparing access road, car park, fixing up the wiring problem, lighting. And when it comes to this particular proposal, to have a proposal come before us that involves, as we were advised, 500 million was the estimate of how this particular total project would go. This is staggering in terms of our financial position, which we have seen something like nearly a dozen sporting facilities since the 2004 Gillespie report that have been cancelled. This degradation that's occurred mainly across the northern end of the municipality, to have something like this come out, I can't see this being funded by the federal government, and we've certainly discussed this. I can't see it being funded by the state government, and we certainly cannot fund this sort of project ourselves. We heard previously in the last term that the studies that would be required were in the order of $700,000 worth of studies, from geotechnical reports, business cases, cultural heritage management plans, environmental studies. Some of these reports will
1 minute
take
left.
a year and to undertake, and at great cost. And this is a dreadful expense to pass on to the next council. We did resolve to seek that a solar farm and urban forest be established here, which is an excellent proposal in accordance with our urban farm forest policy and our environmental policy. This thing has been pushed, and it is just, to be frank, from my point of view, it is outrageous given having structures on sinking ground. We had the village, sinking village of the West. We've learnt nothing from that. The ground is sinking. There's massive amounts of toxins that have been poured into the site. And to propose to grow food there is something that, I feel I need to resist this sort of
Thank you,
proposal.
Councillor Lancashire.
Thank you.
Before you have right of reply, maybe I'll ask Director Levis to clarify these few last things that Councillor Lancashire was saying about the ground and toxins and.
Through you, Mayor. I'll just maybe speak to the fact that the draft vision was provided to GHD. GHD had done the original work for council in 2019 and given advice that the draft vision was appropriate and could be managed with the right mitigation measures. Their review of the recent plan reiterates that. The plan doesn't have large, heavy structures on former landfill site. The design has intentionally had those heavier uses located off the former landfill site. So, officer's advice and the advice of the experts is that the plan is appropriate and can be managed. There are gases on site, but they're low level, and again, the advice of the experts is that that's not a risk to human health.
Thank you, Councillor Papalia. You have right of reply.
Before I do start with my right of reply, I would like to ask the director a question. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Mr. Levers, if you could please comment on the cost. My understanding and from reading this report and the recommendation in front of me, we're moving a draft vision plan, and following that, we will then actively explore external funding opportunities as well as expression of interests for funding. Did you have anything additional to add in terms of funding of this site? I believe there was a comment about $500 million and just the duration of this vision as well, if you could please.
Through the Mayor. Yeah, and I think it is outlined in the report that the estimate to realise the vision is in the order of $500 million. So it's significant value. The report outlines, and we've been consistent in saying council would not fund that. Council wouldn't have the capacity to fund that. And we believe realisation of the vision requires investment from stakeholders, and they might be government stakeholders, they might be private or not-for-profits. There's a whole range of objectives that can be achieved through the vision plan, and we think that appeals to other people, and the consultation process we've undertaken has shown that to be true. We had lots of interest from stakeholders who saw the vision, thought the vision was a good vision and one that they could buy into. So, and my point earlier in introducing the report was that if there's certainty on the vision from a council perspective, that gives us the ability to engage with those stakeholders and pursue opportunities. There might be, expressions of interest. There might be other processes that invite people to, talk to us about how they might help to invest in the site to realise the vision.
Thank you. Before you do, I believe Councillor Takos, did you want to say something? Councillor Takos?
I do have some questions, if I could ask those before we proceed.
We're not proceeding anywhere except asking Councillor Takos' question or making a comment.
Sorry, point of order. I believe I'm entitled to ask questions at any time in the process.
Yes, you are, but Councillor Takos had her hand up just before when I was talking to Councillor Papalia, so I'll get back to everyone. Thank you.
I just wanted to ask the director, are we allowed to know those stakeholders that are interested?
Through the Mayor, they are outlined in the report, Councillor.
Councillors, would anyone else like to speak? Lancashire, what did you want to ask?
Could we have the plan up on the screen of the site as it would be developed?
We're just talking about a vision plan, right?
Yes.
It's just a vision plan.
Yeah, I'd like it up on the screen to ask my questions.
Would you know what page are you after exactly? Because it's few pages with the plans on it.
Yes, now, certainly we saw in the picture before a substantial art feature, and I think that been discussed as a lookout, but a massive art feature up on the ground mound. So I just want to clarify that there's no structures proposed on the field ground. I've been on the Ravenhall Committee for 7 years, which involved, of course, field sites. And they were very clear from an engineering point of view that structures on the ground, field ground, are inappropriate. Now, this would have lighting towers and other infrastructure. So can we have some clarification on that there would be no structures on the field ground?
Through you, Mayor, the GHD report provides a fair bit of detail on this, but my intent before in saying that the heavy structures wouldn't be on the landfill was intended to point out things like the stadium that are proposed. Something like a light tower could safely be put on fill, is the advice of GHD.
Thank you, Councillor Papalia. You have right of reply, and we're going to wrap up this motion.
Thank you. In closing, just to say that what we're voting on tonight is the draft Sunshine Energy Park vision, which we previously endorsed, and also I just wanted to comment about the funding opportunities. I think this is something that is exciting for the area and for Brimbank as a whole. And in line with our strategy, I'm supportive. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. All against? Thank you.
Madam, can we have a division? Sorry.
Yes, all in favour? Councillor Dang, Councillor Papalia, Councillor Brenton, Councillor David, Councillor Borg and Councillor Rasic, and all against, please. Councillor Lancashire, Councillor Tarkos and Councillor Kerr. Thank you. We're going to go to 12.14, proposed additional accessible parking in front of Brimbank Community and Civic Centre. Mr. Levis.
Through you, Mayor, this report was deferred from last meeting. Unless you want me to go back over the background, I don't think there's anything I need to add.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for Mr. Levis? Do I have a move of this report? Councillor David?
Move the motions as written.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Deng?
I second the motion, thank you.
Councillor David, would you like to speak to this motion?
Madam Mayor, is something that it requires, I believe. That's the reason why the officers seen the picture to it, and I think it's a welcome thing in front of the officers here, especially disabled people and things like that. I think it's needed badly, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Deng, would you like to speak to this report?
I think the report cleared enough, so
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak? Councillor Kerr?
Yeah, Councillor David and Councillor Dang have said that it's a positive outcome for people living with a disability. Can I ask for them to clarify how that is when there's less accessible car spots at the front from what the original motion was? You said it's great and it's fantastic, but in fact it doesn't increase the amount of accessible car parks. So how's that a good outcome?
I will actually ask Director to clarify that. Thank you.
Through the Mayor, The report recommends that there isn't a change to the existing car parking. Officers did an assessment of the needs both for disability parking in the precinct as well as for the short-term parking to support the library, the council, some of the local businesses. The report outlines the opportunity and the cost to make changes to the existing car parking, but ultimately recommends against making those changes and rather suggests that we do some increased enforcement because we believe some people are inappropriately using the disabled parking bays.
Thank you.
But
Any
can
other
I- yeah,
councillors?
Can I still speak to what I was saying? Because I wasn't really asking a question, I was making a comment.
Yep.
So I just want to reiterate that Councillor David and Councillor Dang said that this was a good outcome for the community. Well, it's not a good outcome for people living with a disability that require an accessible car park. So we're putting the cost of it ahead of people that actually need to use it. I'm part of the DAC committee, and at multiple times people that are a part of that committee cannot get a car park in front of council. So I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak to this motion, councillors? Councillor Borg?
Yes, I have thought a lot about the recommendations. As Councillor Kerr mentioned, we've been on deck and people with disability have complained about not being able to find a car park close by. This is a tough one. I know that Council's recommendation is to leave things as they are, with the exception of allowing people with disability more time if they need to in the provided space in front of the building. I understand that there is quite a cost involved in options 2 and 3. It's a difficult one, and I would love to see option 2 preferably rather than the council's recommendations. We do have an aging population, and this is something which we really need to take into account.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Anyone else, councillors? I just want to let you know that if there is a foreshadow motion, there is opportunity for it.
So we have an option for an alternative motion to be submitted, is what you're saying? Another motion at the end of this motion?
So if this to be lost, like we did before, we have opportunity to have a foreshadow motion.
I don't have strong views on this one, so if there's a council that's passionate about it that would like to, I'm happy to.
Perhaps if we can have an alternative motion for option.
Yep.
Option
Councillor
2.
Borg? So this is alternative or foreshadow motion? Because if it's alternative, we don't have to vote on the motion previously. If it's foreshadow, we'll have to vote on the previous motion, wait for outcome, and then go to foreshadow motion. If it's foreshadow motion, we have to vote. If it's alternative, we don't have to. We just can add. Okay, Councillor Borg, is it foreshadow motion or alternative?
Alternative.
Alternative. You have?
No, you need to ask Chris that so they hear that. So you're asking the director, who's the alternate and opposite of what's proposed.
Madam Mayor,
Mr. Levis?
I was more. I just can't understand. What's the question? What we got against the accessible parking?
But
A
sorry,
point of order, one
can I
second,
put
just
point of
one second.
order?
We'll ask the Director Levis to see if it's the difference between alternative to the original, what we have in front of us here.
So is it consistent or is it an opposite recommendation?
So through the Mayor, the report outlines three options. The officers are recommending option C, which is the no infrastructure change. If if council wanted to move and adopt one of the other options, I think they could elect to move move a motion that to proceed with option A or B. And I think option B is the one that Councillor Borg's proposing.
That's the 80,000, isn't it?
No, it's option B
85.
is the correct option, which is allowing more accessible car parks in front of council.
Yeah, but one is allowing.
So we're going to foreshadow this. So we're going to vote on this one first before we foreshadow.
To foreshadow. Okay.
So we're going to vote on original one and then foreshadow. Councillor Borkham. Okay, we're going to vote on original.
Foreshadow. Yes. Thank you. On that advice, I will foreshadow an alternative motion.
Okay, so foreshadow, we're going to vote on original one. All in favour, please raise your hands.
Just for clarification, Councillor Borg has foreshadowed a motion.
David knows what that means. Can someone explain?
Yes.
Councillor Kerr, we have explanation now.
So Councillor Borg said on the motion. That what was?
Councillor Dang, second your motion. Councillor David, you moved the motion. Councillor Dang, second your motion. Councillor Borg didn't second the motion.
Change the spots. That's what they don't understand.
Councillor Kerr, we'll have a governance to talk now. Thank you.
Can I respond to Councillor Kerr, please?
Didn't speak to you.
Not quite yet, sorry, Councillor.
If you allow me to explain, currently we have a motion before us, which is the officer's recommendation on the screen, moved by Councillor David, seconded by Councillor Dang. Councillor Borg has clarified that she wishes to move to foreshadow another option contained in the report. We will now proceed to the vote on the original motion, which is the officer's recommendation.
So if that lapses, Councillor.
Should that lose, then Councillor Borg will be able to move her foreshadowed motion.
Which is motion B on the screen. Was it? Sorry. Before we go, Councillor David, would you like your right of reply before we go to voting of the officer's report? Yep, that's your right of reply. Thank you. All in favour, please raise your hands. Sarah, yeah. All against? It's carried. 12.15 contract number 243458T, construction of tennis pavilion, Leonhardt Reserve, Taylor's Lakes. Director Levis, thank you.
Through you, Mayor. This report is seeking Council's approval to award a contract for construction of the tennis pavilion at Lionheart Reserve to South Road Construction. This project formed part of Council's 2023-24 budget and capital works program. Following a competitive tender process, South Road have been determined to offer the best value to Council. Subject to tender award, officers expect this project to commence ASAP and for the project to be completed mid-2025. I recommend this contract to Council.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for Mr. Levers? Do I have a move of this motion? Councillor Papalia?
I move the motion as per shared screen. Thank
Do
you.
I have a seconder? Councillor Borg?
I'll second the report, thank you.
Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Councillor Borg, would you like to speak to it?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak to this report? I'll put this report to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. All against? Councillor Kerr, are you for or against this motion? It's carried. 12.16, contract number 24/3475, provision of hard waste collection service. Mr. Levis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is seeking Council's approval to award a contract to WM Waste Management Services for provision of a hard waste collection service for an initial period of 3 years with an option to extend for a further 3 one-year periods, subject to performance and at Council's discretion. The contract builds in a requirement for the increased recycling of material collected as part of Council's commitment to sustainability. The contract requires a minimum of 20% of collected material to be recycled, with performance bonuses for recycling greater than 20 and up to 30%. Awarding of this contract would mean a change in service provider for the hard waste collection service. However, officers have assessed this change as being warranted and likely to deliver the best value for council and the community. Officers don't believe there'll be any significant impact on community members using this service as a result of the change. I recommend the contract to you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions for Mr. Levis? Do I have a move of this motion? Councillor Papalia?
Sure, I move the motion as per shared screen.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor David? Councillor Papalia, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor David, would you like to speak to this motion? Any other councillors? Would anyone like to speak to this motion? I put this motion to vote. All in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried. Item 30, notices of motion. There are no notices of motion. There are no notices of rescission for tonight. Item 15, urgent business. Sio, is there any urgent business for tonight?
No, Madam Mayor.
I'm going to go to item 16, confidential businesses. There are no items of confidential business for tonight. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in tonight's meeting. I declare this meeting closed at 9:02. I instruct Channel 31 to stop live streaming this meeting. Thank you.